Over 77% of people have experienced burnout in the last year, and many didn't even realize it until they couldn't get out of bed. Are you tired, or are you burning out?
Yes.
Yes! My name's Michael Perry, and I'm here today with Justin, and this is the new Ashla Podcast. Hello and welcome to the new Ashla Podcast. Today we are diving into burnout. A topic that is starting to get more attention and has not been in enough people's awareness. I think I suffered from burnout for years and had no idea what was going on. I just figured life is hard. You just gotta tooth and nail it the whole way through. And I know for me, the worst burnout experience I had, I was working for Johnson & Johnson. 7 years, overtime almost nonstop. And I started day shift. And our overtime, I had to work from 4 a.m. to 2 p.m. But I'm a night owl. So I would stay up till midnight, 1 o'clock, go to bed, wake up after 3 hours of sleep, and after a couple months of doing that, I ended up having to get FMLA for stress and anxiety, and I ended up quitting my job, and it was rough.
Yeah.
And it took me a long time to recover. Yeah, you're there.
I'm there right now. And this isn't a secret. I just haven't told anybody. But no, it's interesting because I'm going through that right now. And at some point, we're going to reduce hours, or we're going to just spread our wings and jump off a cliff and see what happens, right?
Yep.
Not literally. Don't call the cops on me. But, it's interesting. I seen an article today, and it was talking about this idea, or this thing they're calling silent cracking. Have you heard that? Have you heard of that before?
No, I've been hearing about silent quitting.
Right. So they do reference the silent quitting, but now it's silent cracking because people aren't quitting anymore. They're just sticking with it, kind of. And it's like this gradual decline in their morale and but an increase in their stress and which of course causes all kinds of health issues. Without getting into it too much, I am suffering the effects of this. Which is ironic because a few years ago, a colleague of mine, a brother who used to help me with the Knights of Awakening podcast and communities and stuff, he was really, really, really feeling this. And, I had convinced him to, you got to let it go. You got to spread your wings and jump off the proverbial cliff. And he did. And he's really successful and much happier because he's working for himself now and he's doing all these things. But he was so stressed out. And I told him, I was like, the next video you do, because we didn't do a lot of shows back then like we're doing now. We just did YouTube videos for a period of time. And I said, you got to do one on the importance of rest. And he did a great job. But he was really doing this video. He was like really talking to himself because he needed to hear that. He needed to know that. But anyway, so the silent cracking is like this. People aren't real confident in the job economy, in the job markets and stuff. So they're just dealing with it. 5 or 6 years ago, people were like, nope, this place sucks. I'm out of here. And they would just quit and they would work for 5 or 6 years. And once it got too much, they would quit again. But now they're sticking with it and it's really starting to cause problems. My situation doesn't really fit the silent cracking because I don't,
You're aware.
Right. Well, there's no, it's not like I quit and I go and I quit and I go. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. I'm not judging that. I work for a really, really great place. I do. I work for a great place. I work with a great team, those people are my family, right?
Yeah.
I've known them for like 11 years now. So they're my family and I love them to death. And I'd do anything for them. But it's time to go. It's time to go because I am burnt out. And not because of the environment that I'm in, it's just the job that I'm doing. So, that job is a widowmaker for some because it just really just stresses you out so bad. I've been meditating and teaching meditation and things and mindfulness for 2 decades now, and that's not even working for me anymore. So there's clearly some other things and like I said, not getting too deep into the weeds here, but I recently went and got a health checkup, and there is clear and present stress danger for me. So, it's affected my entire physiology, like down to my blood, right? So,
Yeah.
it's time to go. It's time to reduce or go. And I'll leave that part up to them because I'm happy to work, reduced hours, but
Hey, you got to do what's right for you, and a lot of people don't realize it.
Right.
I think another big issue is so many people think they're invincible, and they just go and go until they break, and then they keep going because they feel like they have to. They don't even realize they're broken.
Right. Yeah. I mean, dude, I've worked for old school guys, or I've worked with old school guys throughout the years. They're like, I'll work at this place until noon of the day of my funeral. I'm gonna die in this chair type mentality. Now, I don't have that mentality. I don't. Life is precious to me, and I will fight for it. So, but this is a good topic, and I reached out to Michael the day he sent me this stuff, and I was like, dude, are you calling me out? Are you trying to call me out on the carpet here? So it's fine. It's fine. So, but I'm partnering with somebody that you guys have seen recently. We did a show with her. Michael did a show with her. I was stuck at that job, couldn't make it to that interview, which I regret missing because it was a great one. But I'm working with her on some things and on the up and up. But even though I'm moving in that positive direction, it's good for us to explore this topic today. And this show is just as much for me as it is hopefully for you, and you too, Michael. So let's get into it, man. I'm excited about this one.
Yeah, so burnout, we talk about people feeling invincible and just pushing through, getting burnt out, and keep going. What are some good signs to look for when people are burning out? I think it's a great place to start.
Well, and it's important to say that this isn't just about feeling tired, right? This isn't just exhaustion where you're just tired, but because when you feel tired a lot, you can kind of recoup that with a good night's sleep, or a weekend off, or a vacation to the woods, or to Disneyland if that's your thing, whatever, or just a change of pace, right? This thing runs deeper. What we're talking about today, this idea of burnout is much deeper than that because it erodes you. It's like getting rust in the center of your body, and it just kind of goes out this way, right? And like I just said a few minutes ago, it literally affects. This is an energetic thing at its center. You're just completely cracking under the surface, and it'll just rust your whole undercarriage. You know what I mean? So, and it taps into every part of your being. This is why we always talk about how important it is to look at ourselves when we're doing this work, when we're practicing these ideas and these philosophies and stuff, to understand that it's a holistic thing. We are a holistic beings. We have a spirit, we have our mind, we have our body, and with this kind of thing, and I'll just say not always, only because I'm not an expert, okay? But from personal experience, the body is the first thing to start giving you signals. So, but this stuff comes with, emotional exhaustion, where you just have nothing left to give, and you don't have a single F anymore, right? Or being cynical all the time. Your whole mood literally shifts.
And you see that so much in the workplace. We just have people who become so bitter and resentful and nitpicky. Yeah, because they're so angry at the world and they don't understand why.
Or well, they come in all bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, like you bring a guy in or a lady in and you're training them, and and this has kind of become a meme, right? I see this all the time where, it's like this old burnout guy, man. He's smoking cigarettes and his hair is all disheveled. He hasn't showered in days. And he's training the new guy. And the new guy is like this bright-eyed, bushy-tailed. And he's, ready to go. And the guy's just like, listen. He's not even stoic. He's just over it, right? That's how it gets, And you're just detached from the things that you love doing, or the things, you get up in the morning when you get started a new job and you're like, man, I can't wait to go, and you're energized, and it just sucks the marrow out of your bones. Yeah. And so one thing I noticed for me is another one that's a sign here is my performance dipped. Oh yeah. And in my job, you cannot let that slip, or you get so far behind that it just crushes you under the weight of it, because the flow of work literally never stops. Every day there's 2 or 3 new things. And because I do 2 different functions at my job, and they just start stacking on top of each other. So, and there's just no motivation for me, like that was my first sign, was like my performance started dipping. I wasn't motivated to do anything. And it's not because I'm lazy. I mean, obviously I'm not incapable, right? But because my energy was just is so depleted that it's almost impossible it's almost impossible some days to get that effort, get that motivation to do anything, to bring my best. Because we always talk about we do our best, right? Everywhere we go, everything we do. Well, my best has been in the low 30s, bro. You know what I mean? For a few months now. So,
well, I think another big thing about motivation is it's like you see this not just in the workplace. Burnout is not just in a single location. You see the ripple effects everywhere. You become shorter with the people you love. You end up not having the energy to go out and do anything, and you just want to stay at home. You want to sleep in. You have no drive. And I think that's one of the things I think the podcast has been really good for you, is this is something that gets you into flow state where it doesn't take a lot of energy, and if anything, it sort of revitalizes you. It's been kind of like a life raft for you.
Well, yes. And here's why: because I'm tapping into something that is, you can't ever deplete it. It's infinite, right? Because we're tapping into these ideals and teachings, and it is a way to bring us back to life. But it's difficult when you get to a point where you're just like, I don't want to be here anymore. I don't want to be here anymore. And like you said, it's not just at work, and that's just the example I'm using because that's the one I'm going through right now.
Well, that's usually where the rust starts to build, right?
But it is this idea of burnout exists on a spectrum, wouldn't you say?
Oh yeah.
Because it's not always, you're not going to have the same indicators that I do. You might have some, or they might be to a lesser degree, a greater degree. And at times it comes in moments. Sometimes you're like sitting there and you're like, okay, rush of motivation. I better start before it goes away, which causes stress and anxiety and.
Yeah.
So on one end of the spectrum, it could be just a kind of like a tinge or a mild depletion of your motivation or your energy. But then all of a sudden it could be where you're completely in crisis. Where my physical system right now is in crisis because of the stress, which is causing the anxiety, causing inflammation in my system. It's literally changing the chemistry of my blood in a bad way. So, and it's not just one little thing. Burnout is all kinds of things just kind of converging in together.
Yeah, we talk about how stress can cause illness. And when you're perpetuating stress, like you look at animals, I know we've brought up how like animals who get chased in the woods, they shake it off and they get all those hormones out of their system. When you're constantly in survival and strive mode, you are wearing your body down at such an accelerated rate that your systems will start quitting on you. Your body will start rejecting you as a way to try to tell you to slow them down.
Right. Yeah. You get to a point where you're not a trusted conductor of your own train, Yeah. They just put you in the back with the passengers and you're just going along for the ride. And we have some axioms that touch upon this idea. And the first one is the edge is lost if the blade is sharpened too much. Moderation is the key to balance. And burnout is the proof of this truth in my mind. Because when we push ourselves and push ourselves and push ourselves without rest, without good rest, if we're just sharpening our sword just in the name of productivity, and it doesn't make it more effective. It does what to the sword?
It dulls it.
It dulls it, and it makes it brittle, and it makes it useless. You might get one good strike, but that's all you're going to get. You're gonna bang that sword, and it's going to shatter, right? So because everything is being worn down over time, and again, we talk about this all the time. We manifest this stuff through our thoughts, through our words, right? We just talked about being impeccable in the last episode. When we're talking about the 4 agreements. Not only do you need to be a good role models for each other and live and actually live our truth and share that through our examples that we set for people, but we're also setting the examples literally for every cell in our body by what we think, what we speak, what we do. And you said a little bit ago, we get to a point where even our body stops trusting us with that power. And it goes into that kind of that physiological survival. Like, well, okay, let's start shutting stuff down, the stuff that we need.
Yeah. So what would you say the difference between burnout and tiredness is? Because I think that is something that a lot of people, they're like, I'm just tired. And
right.
That can be the case. But
well, with this burnout, it's very important to recognize the signs sooner rather than later. Because you may get to a point where you can't reverse some of the damage you've done. It's very possible. It happens to people
Facts.
a lot. When you're tired, you can reverse that. You can fix that by just resting most of the time. But if you're chronically tired, I would say, if you're tired here and there, but you just ran a marathon or you're really active and stuff, well, you're tired, right? But when you're chronically tired and you're getting 6 to 7 hours of sleep a day, it's time to look a little deeper into that. Because burnout it's not just about being overworked or overtired. It is living in a way that is unsustainable to your energy stores, right? And you go into debt, wouldn't you say? You go into
100%. Debt. That's a great way to look at it. Because it's like, you hit this threshold where all of a sudden you're feeling this decline. And it starts subtle, you start noticing you're more anxious. You're more stressed more often. You start being a little more irritable. All of a sudden it's like you feel that afternoon sludge becomes a little more intense and it's consistent. Like you might have some better days, some lower days, but you're seeing a general decline in your well-being. That is a great way to know you're on the burnout track and you're not just tired because, like you said, you ran a marathon and you've just been really active. I know for me, I try to be mindful because I'm juggling so much between this, work, and school. And it's like I'm always watching myself. Right. It's like, am I tired or am I burning out? Do I need to prioritize rest more in my schedule? Or do I need to prioritize more productivity? And I gauge where I'm at and I base my week off of even. Because I plan usually a week in advance what my agenda is. Mm-hmm. And I will very much take my energy levels into account at the start of the week.
Yeah, and the thing to understand about burnout is that it's not just stuff inside, but stuff outside too. But it's not just outside, it's also inside, right? There are lots of factors that play into this kind of toxicity that overtakes you if you're not careful. For me, it took a few months. I'd say probably 3 or 4 months I've been dealing with this, and it finally got to the point where I'm like, I am feeling it now. It's actually hurting me, right? I'm literally potentially poisoning myself because I should have been done months ago, and I just held on, and I held on, and I held on. Yeah, so
okay, well, like we say, there's no judgment here when it comes to this stuff too, because whoever's listening, if you're noticing this decline, it doesn't necessarily mean jump and spread your wings like he was talking about, but it just means start gaining an awareness, start watching it, because often burnout's a very easy thing to overlook until it starts getting into that really steep decline. Yeah. Like you're in right now. I know that's what happened to me. I mean, I didn't know what burnout was. I just got there and my body was like, you're quitting your job or I'm going to make sure your life is a living hell. Which I did for another month or two before I'm like, I quit. I can't do it anymore.
You do this or I will kill you in some cases.
Yep.
Stress kills people. Every single day stress kills people. Stress, cortisol, these things, adrenaline, these are signals that help us understand, because if you're good at pushing through, if you lived a hard life, you learn to deal with pain, you learn to deal with stress, those everyday stressors that we all kind of experience, but some of us can push through that, but it becomes a background thing, and it's not a good place to be though. It's not a good place to be where you're toughing it out, because again, if you go too far with it, you could cause irreversible damage to your system. Your mind can always heal from anything. Your spirit, no problem. Your body, however, it has its limitations eventually. So it's real important to learn this stuff, to discover this early, and start to make those changes. Up to and including changing your life. It's a scary proposition. But going back to last episode, it's because we've been conditioned to believe that.
Right. Society is so bred on that hustle culture that, I mean, it does seem just so natural to so many people, pretty much to most people, that it's like, I need to grind out, I need to work 16-hour days, I need to make sure I'm doing everything for my kids, I need to make sure I'm juggling all these things at maximum
Which are all
output.
very noble reasons. That's what makes this hard.
Yeah. I mean, so many people try to be Supermom, but that can lead to such consequences, not just for us, but for the people we're taking care of.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, I think to some people I know that are overproductive, and I've sort of studied and tried to understand the relationship with their parents. They saw their parents doing it, which then made them feel compelled they had to keep it up. It's that whole generational trauma, right? Where it's like, my parents busted their butts for me, I need to do the same thing. And I'm not saying don't provide for your kids and make a good life, but you need to show an example of living a good life and not just a productive life.
A good, healthy life. Stress is that silent killer, man. Anxiety is that silent killer. Because that stuff leads to hypertension, and eventually something will give. And it's usually something important. Either your heart or your kidneys or something that is literally vital. Like, you cannot live without those functions. So let's talk about some of the factors that lead to this, some of the common ones. What are some external factors that cause burnout?
You know, we've touched a lot on overworking, but I think one of the biggest ones that's so unseen is our environments. When we are around toxic people that put us down, that shame us, that tell us we're not enough, when we're in these environments where we can't have boundaries and be effective, it can drain us so fast. You know, we've talked before, it's like when we're around people where we can be authentic and we feel loved and appreciated for who we are, we flourish. We have so much energy. When we're in the opposite, where we're when we are the ones getting all the crap from someone who can't deal with their issues, I mean, there's times where we're in the wrong and it's good to be called out. Like, communication is one of the things I am so big about. But there's a difference between healthy communication and blame and just letting out your feelings on someone else. Right. Because that will drain somebody. There was this study done by Gabor Mate, and he said that they did a study on women with breast cancer. And women who would not talk back, would not be, if they were being yelled at or whatever, who didn't express themselves back, that weren't jerks back to the person, were 10 times more likely to develop breast cancer. 10 times more likely. Why? Because their body rejects them, because they're rejecting themselves. And this goes for when you're working so hard that you're burning out, your body starts to reject you because you reject you. You don't put yourself first. You put the prosperity first. And again, I'm not saying don't be productive, don't be prosperous, but find the balance.
That's the thing. I released a series of shorts across our social medias talking about, you know, how fruitless it is to work this way for others, especially when you're working for like a company or something. And you can work for the best company on earth, but money talks. Metrics are king. You cannot. People will never be more important than those metrics, because the people at the top come and go, right? So you can have a good one. You can have a good CEO who, you know, gives people nap times, for example, but they won't be there forever. And nap times will go away depending on who comes along. So
I know for me, that's one of the biggest rules I made for myself. I worked at Come and Go after Johnson & Johnson as a get-me-by job. But I made a promise to myself that my next job I commit to was going to be a small company or a mom-and-pop shop. And I worked at Come and Go for 2-3 years looking for that perfect opportunity. And now I'm in a great job, great field in a small company, and I can have those conversations with my management where they can be flexible with me or I can be flexible with them. Right. But it's very personal. I don't feel like a cog in a machine.
You know, and we're talking about the external factors here of burnout. And these are really easy to spot. Once you kind of start feeling the burnout, these are kind of easy to pick out, right? You're overworked. And, you know, this could be demands that just exceed your human capabilities, right?
Right.
Like it's day after day after day after day. You know, Americans especially are horrible about taking vacations, right? We know this. Yep. You know, I work with a guy that's always got 1,000 vacation hours at the ready all the time, right? But these toxic environments, once we start becoming aware that there is poison in the air, we are able to see those much easier.
Yep.
And that's not just workplace. It could be your community, your family group, whether that's, chosen family or blood family, relationships that have a lot of negativity or control or disrespect. But you said it already, this always on culture that we are stuck on.
Yeah.
Right? Especially as technology gets better and better and better. I guess better is a matter of perspective. Gets easier for us to be stuck.
You could get me down a rabbit hole with this. I'm all about the more comfortable we make life, the harder we make life on ourselves. So I'm not going to get into the tangent. We might do an episode on it.
But think about this. We now exist in a world where 24 hours a day we are expected to look at messages or look at communications, right? And I even caught myself doing this the other day with Jenna. It was, I don't know, it was in the evening time. It was probably 7:30, 8 o'clock. Something came to mind about the plan we're building for my bringing me back to center and kind of resetting everything for me. I was reaching out to her at 7:30 at night. Right? And I caught myself. I said, I had already sent the message, but then I said, oh my God, listen, I am so sorry. I just realized that I sent this to you and you're trying to live your life out there somewhere. You're not on call 24 hours a day. And I caught myself doing that because it's not cool. Now, of course, someone could say, well, yeah, but she could read the message and she could just get to it later. And of course, when I send messages to people, I don't ever expect them to respond right away. Nothing is an emergency, right? In that way. But some people feel obligated. I got to stop what I'm doing, and, I caught myself. But that always on culture that we're on, and because of technology, we can never step away. I remember when I entered the job market back in the day, you guys can see some gray, so you can kind of figure that out. Most of this is burnout and stress, though, probably, huh?
Yeah, not age.
But once you left your workplace, Michael, your boss couldn't find you, right?
Yeah.
He'd call you on the phone, but you had to actually answer it. And most of us were like, nope, it's past not answering the phone time.
Yep.
And you grew up with, your folks were kind of from that old school where if you're calling us after, 8 o'clock, 8:30 at night, you better be dying, right?
Right.
You better not be calling me for no bull crap. So this is such a crazy shift from that, because now it's like, you have a company and you have employees and you're reaching out to people like oh my God, I just forgot about something. I just thought about this, and you're texting it to them. It's like 8:30 at night. There should be no expectation of them answering that or even giving a crap about it until 8 o'clock Monday morning or whatever it may be.
But so many people, it's all about that instant gratification, right?
That stuff's crazy to me.
And we get accustomed to it. It's an easy thing. Us as humans, we are naturally drawn to the path of least resistance, and the path of least resistance is instant gratification.
Right. So those are like the external factors, and we all are subject to those. It doesn't matter if you run your own business. It doesn't matter if Heather is running this her empowered jewelry business. It's called Solstice Lumina, where she makes crystal jewelry like this, right? Stuff like this. I don't know if you can see that. I literally went to drop our keys because we share a car, and I literally went to drop the keys off to her yesterday at her job, at her actual job. And while I'm sitting there, somebody calls the restaurant looking for her about an order they made. And they expected her to switch hats. And she told them, she's like, you don't ever call this place for that. Right? So yeah, it's like that, on demand 24 hours a day. It probably started going downhill when we had on demand on cable, right? You could watch a movie 24 hours a day. And then through COVID, it was like we got used to getting movies from the theaters on our TV. And now that that's not happening as often, now we're all mad, right? So it's that, like you said, the instant gratification, that always on 24-hour on demand stuff. And what sucks is our youngest generation was born into a world where that was normal. So I don't know what the next 10 or 20 years is going to bring.
Man.
So what are some internal things that push us to burnout if we're not careful?
Yeah. I mean, I tell you what,
and these are tougher to spot.
You say, these are tougher to spot. Time. And even if you don't think you have perfectionism in you, like, I've been thinking more about it and being more observant with me, and it's like, how often am I trying to meticulously do something to that flawless point and doing 100 hours of work for something that took 10? Like, perfectionism will definitely be something that can bring about burnout.
Right. Well, and the bad thing about that is you spend a lot of extra time you don't need, and maybe it doesn't take well.
Yo.
So you just did all that and you stressed out for nothing, right? It just wasn't the right time, or you just, whatever you put out there wasn't resonating with people.
And then, I mean, I think another big one is just like, we get into these trauma patterns where we're overextending ourselves. We're trying to save our family. We're trying to save our loved ones. We're trying to be just saviors to everyone in our lives. People pleasing. We just, I don't care about my own health. All I care about is this gets done to completion. Eyes ahead. Let me make sure this is taken care of. And it's like, I've been in those relationships where I am saving this person constantly from the consequences of their own actions because I love them. That's what I thought was love. And it's just this constant.
Yeah, and again, it comes from a very honorable place.
I never was mindful about
much of the stuff
how much my overextending was draining me on such a level. And I can't say I went through burnout from it, but I've had a relationship burnout, if you know what I mean. Like, it gets so fed up giving and giving and giving, and just not feeling that reciprocation. Not that I ever thought about it like that. You start getting cold to the world without that communication and reciprocity. That cynicism kicks on.
Right. And that's what Ashla teaches us, right? You start to get burnout when you give and give and give and give and receive very little back. You know, for us, I teach that it's just as important to be a good receiver than it is giver. And a lot of us aren't taught that way. A lot of us are, give. You must receive. You must receive. It's mandatory, because if you overextend and you're out there with your Superman complex all the time and you don't take,
or you don't trust people to carry the burden,
stop.
I know that was a big one for me.
Or there's that too. Yeah, but you can never give more than you receive, because eventually, again, you're in that deficit, you're in that debt, and you can't go to the bank and get a loan for that. So the world will always have more demands for you to deal with. Always. That is.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up, because one key factor here is too, when you're in that enabled place where you are overextending, people will take as much as they can get and feel comfortable with. And that grows and grows and grows. And we can't fault people for that. If we are overly accommodating, we are telling people, use me. Let me give to you. And people will be path of least resistance. Well, they said they like doing this. They keep doing it for me. I'm going to keep asking this of them. So we can't fault these situations more than we can develop communication to have boundaries, to ask for things in return, or for people to meet us in the middle. Because without that,
Well, and we have another axiom that touches upon this section of the show. Decay comes from complacency. We've talked about this in a different show, and we did a whole show about decay comes from complacency, that axiom. If you ignore the signs and you just ignore them, then, as you said earlier, this burnout becomes your default state. And complacency comes in all different shapes and sizes, especially with the bad stuff. That tends to be more prevalent, right?
So what is the toll?
So
when we start getting into this burnout, we can look at it from the spirit, mind, and body, the three aspects we operate all the time. What does burnout cost us in the end?
Well, the physical signs are pretty easy to spot once they happen to you. You got inflammation, chronic fatigue. You literally get sick all the time. Headaches every single day. Now, here's the interesting thing I'll say about headaches. Headaches are pretty standard symptom message, right? It's a good messenger for this kind of thing, because it will happen when you're in that environment. That could be at work, it could be around certain people, whatever. You'll start getting headaches, but as soon as you get out of that environment, the headaches start to go away, right? But so here's another axiom. I'm all about the axioms today, because a lot of them fit really well. Nourish the mind, body, and spirit with the substance of virtue and righteousness. Now that sounds like it doesn't fit, but it's important to look at this axiom in this way, because this axiom is telling us to nourish our whole system.
Well, it's the balance of righteousness, not just for others, but for ourselves.
Depletion. It is. Right. This burnout erodes our mind, our body, our spirit, our emotional states, and we must always be mindful and consciously trying to restore all of ourselves holistically, all of them at once. Because look, if you're tired, or if you're just you're starting to feel overwhelmed or overworked, you can go on vacation, right, and go or get more sleep. But if you're not taking care of your spirit, for example, it's still going to feel empty. You're not recharging in your whole system. So this axiom tells us that virtue and righteousness,
yep,
in this setting is the right fuel, right? And we're not talking about moral behavior right now. It's about living in alignment with balance, with the truth that I am now starting to suffer. I must face that. I must see reality. I am feeling this now. I am suffering physically. And when we don't align with that truth, with that holistic approach, anything we try to nourish ourselves with will be just temporary, just band-aids. So I had a vacation. Going back to my example, I had a vacation, a week off in those 3 or 4 months. And that week was great, but guess what happened when I started going back? The first couple of days were great, but then it started coming back again. Yeah, I mean, it's the toll. It's physical. The physical ones are easy. But, emotionally, you're just irritable. You're just crazy short fuse, right? Like, it's just like, damn it, who's calling me now, right? Sometimes I'll look at the phone and go, oh, I'll just be like, oh, not you. I don't want to talk to you. And then you silence the phone. And then you come into work one day and
then you feel stressed
10 messages because you kept sending them to voicemail at your desk because I don't want to deal with that right now. Right. But it starts to turn everything cloudy and gray too, to give you kind of a visualization, right? Doesn't matter how well the sun's shining, it's just everything's gray. And you start to feel kind of hopeless sometimes.
Oh yeah.
And people fall into depression through this. I haven't fallen into a depression, but I definitely I'm suffering the stress and the anxiety of it. So, but spiritually, what we call the light starts to feel dim, and it's hard to find joy, and we start to ignore our purpose, and our purpose even can become obscured from us, right? It's like, I'm feeling great, there's purpose gone, just dark. So, and part of my issue is related to that spiritual purpose, which I'm working to fix.
I mean, you can go through a straight up creative route where nothing no longer comes. You don't feel compelled to create or build or do anything.
Yes.
You just feel stuck, stagnant, and you don't even care.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the physical signs easy to see. Even the emotional ones, once you get to a point where you just got a short fuse, really, that's what happened to me. I started getting irritable. I know I'm such a happy.
We were talking about wanting to beat up cabinets before. I think they got a perspective.
But that's because I actually love
that's
doing
flow
this.
state.
I love doing this, right? So, right.
Yep.
But if you came and visited me in my office, you'd be like, oh God, who's this guy? This guy is way different. Michael's come to my office a few times and visited me.
You might even not recognize him when you see him in person.
It was good to see him, but
Oh yeah.
Yeah, especially if I shave. I almost shaved my beard. I almost shaved my beard the other day. But then
it's a nice stoic
my
look.
daughter said, "Oh, your beard looks really cool." So I was like, "Okay, I won't shave it just yet." Yeah. Well, I went from Qui-Gon to Count Dooku looking beard. In a matter of months. So yeah.
I think
maybe we'll keep flowing with the Count Dooku for a while.
Yeah, you start braiding it.
Like you said, it's so long that I have to, like tie it up or something. Yeah.
But There's
Right. Oh,
also the
that
mind,
would be
though,
kind of
like
cool.
the amount, the mental health issues that come from burnout, the inability to focus, the negative thoughts, the ruminating, the decision fatigue. You start becoming more and more indecisive because you're starting to not trust your judgment more and more. It's that internal self trust that starts downing your own decisions.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And those are more sneaky. Like the mind and the spirit ones are a little sneakier. They're harder to see. So physically we're pretty good at feeling our bodies. We know, we start getting pains in the chest, or we start getting pains in our neck, or chronic headaches and things like that, where otherwise you don't have those physical issues, and they just start happening, and there's really no cause other than, well, you look for the causes, but and that's the thing, right? So this is something I wanted to point out just real quick, is that, you'll start having these physical symptoms, and they get worse and worse and worse, and you'll go to a doctor, and they're looking for a physical root.
Well, the issue with Western medicine is they want to give you medications to help the symptoms and not the actual issue. So here's some stuff for your anxiety. Here's some stuff for your depression. Keep doing what you're doing. They never ask, what's going on in your life that's creating this?
Right. Exactly. Oh my God, that's perfect. Yes. Keep doing what you're doing. My job is to give you medicine.
So that's a lot of the ways that burnout takes a toll on us. Now, what are some practices we can get into, especially if you're just starting to feel it, you're starting to see what's going on with you? How can we start to recover? How can we start to get ourselves back to baseline?
Well, for me, I surrendered to the idea, or to the understanding, that this is happening to me, and that no matter how hard I push, this cannot be pushed through. It's like this.
Yeah, right.
You can't heal from depletion by working even harder, by exerting more effort that you don't have reserves for. You start this process by surrendering to the idea that you can only heal by taking steps to restore, to refill those reserves. So one thing you brought up in the show notes was radical rest.
So
what is
radical rest?
What is
I kind of coined the term.
I've never heard it called before.
It's learning that rest is not a reward. It's a medicine. It is a necessary part of our lives. And when we are starting to go into burnout, you have to give yourself rest. That means getting a full night's sleep as often as you can, taking time to be still and to let your body recover. Do things that relax you, whether that's going on a walk. I know a lot of people think walk, that's effort, that's going to hurt, that's going to make it worse. It's like, no. It is so restful if you're just going at a leisurely pace, especially through like nature. But radical rest is prioritizing rest as one of the most important things in your life.
Right. Yeah. Breath work, gentle movements, especially. So I'll take a step back here, and because of all this stuff that's kind of piled on me, I stopped exercising a lot because I just didn't feel good. I didn't have the energy. I'd come home, and especially on the days where we weren't doing a recording, I just didn't feel like it. I would want to. My mind would be like, get up, let's do this. My body would be like, dude, give me a minute. And a minute turns into 4 hours. So, start slow. That's what I'm doing. I'm going to start doing some gentle stretching and moving and walking, stuff like that. But, these grounding exercises that we always talk about, that we always kind of give advice on, these help regulate, re-regulate our nervous system. Breathing is really, really important. So, but don't go crazy with it. I'm not going to. I'm going to start with the basics, back to basics, right? To try and reset. I'm just trying to reset and then build again. So, and doing the things that we always talk about a lot on this show is that emotional cleaning of the emotional house, right?
Yeah, not keeping everything.
Journaling and speaking openly. You and I talk a lot. If you need to, work with a therapist. I'm working with a nutrition coach, because she knows more than I do, and she can help me through this. But it starts with surrender again. Just like everything we talk about here, it starts with surrender. I may think I know a lot about nutrition, and I surely know more about my body, right? Her or anyone else knows. But I must surrender. I must empty my cup and then be ready to have it filled again. Because clearly, obviously something's I'm doing is not working.
That's what it takes. You got to be able to not just listen to your body, but to hear what it's saying and follow through with it. Your body is telling you, I'm exhausted. Let yourself sleep. Let yourself give 20% for a couple days. That's okay.
Right. Because, I fell into this trap of, because I have to get up at 4:30 every morning, and I'm not a morning person. I'm not great at mornings. Okay. I've always worked the mid shifts. You go in at like 2 and you work until midnight or 2 in the morning, however long your shift is, and then you just sleep until you're ready to wake up. And I get up at 4:30, and I have convinced myself that I can't exercise, I can't do any light stretching or anything at between 4:30 and 5, because what happens? Because I live a half hour, 40 minutes away from my job, I have to use that time to take a shower, to get dressed, to get all my stuff together, because I can't just come home, right? I gotta make sure everything's in my backpack for the day. And by then time, I'm like, crap, now I'm running out the door like a madman trying to get down there to start my shift. Well, then again, by the time I get home, it's like I'm too tired. So it's really, really, really kind of getting back to basics and a lot of that stuff. So because I haven't been exercising like I should, and that my body is not happy with that. Another way is to reconnect spiritually. That can be through mindfulness, that could be through sacred movements, that could be through prayer. Whatever your connection to spirit is, it's time to get back to that. For me, I've been praying a lot, and you guys know most of my prayers are affirmative prayers, which kind of work twice as good for me, because I'm affirming these things, but I'm doing it through prayer. Time in nature, again, like you said, that one always hits all the check marks, doesn't it? It's a spiritual thing, it's a mental thing, it's an emotional thing, and a good physical thing. So, and of course, in our teachings, Michael, this, our spirit is kind of like the wellspring from which all energy flows. It starts there for us. You can't will it. You can't force it physically. You can't scream at it emotionally. It's that quiet space where we refuel and recharge. But it can be tough to do when your body's in distress, which puts your mind in distress, which throws your emotions all crazy, because now you're, anxious and sometimes depressed and whatever else. So don't forget about the spiritual reconnection. For me, I think that's the biggest part for me right now, because once I start to do that, then everything else will start to kind of fall in place. I still have to work. I still have to do the work for the other things.
Well, right? I think that's really where a lot of people get mixed up. If you start with the spirit, you start working at the foundational level. When you're trying to work on the body and you're trying to exercise all the time, if you don't have that internal knowing of what's enough, what's a good level, especially while you're going through burnout, you're just going to add fuel to the proverbial fire that is burning your house down.
And those are, and no, that's perfectly said. So those are kind of the principles. Those are kind of the thing that we're going to start building the foundation from there, right? These, we got to make sure that we're taking care of our body by resting and our mind by resting. We got to make sure that we're getting our nervous system back into flow, back into harmony. For the actual strategies, there's one that you wrote in here in the notes.
That's one of my favorite ones. If I realize I'm spending way too much of my very rare spare time on social media, doom scrolling for hours, I automatically will delete those social media apps for at least a week. Usually longer. I just got TikTok.
He does.
Yeah, I mean, like, TikTok.
Makes it hard for you to get a hold of it.
I downloaded that today I saw your messages. Cool. Since July, I haven't been on TikTok. Because it's like, nope, I am spending way too much time in this app. It needs to go away. I do not need to be sucked into this. Same with video games and television. It's a distraction. It's a single point focus so that I don't have to deal with all the crap going on in my life. And that's not a place I want to be. That is where I spent most of my life. Let me just put the blinders up by diving into this technology, and I won't have to look at everything burning around me. So I try to be very mindful with my technology use.
Yeah, and you've talked about this before, and instead of these little occasional bursts of self-care, it's really important to start building those consistent actions, those scheduling if you have to. For me, I'm fortunate enough to have people in my life that are already kind of doing well with that, and I just kind of go with them. You know what I mean? I kind of just do that for them because they're looking out for me too. But these small little consistent actions.
I know you were asking me the other episode about how do I juggle so much.
In you.
Straight up habit.
Way more
is the ability to get into a routine and be consistent with myself. And another big thing I didn't mention when you brought that up the other day, saying no. Learning to say no to things that aren't important. Or, I mean, it's like I try to delegate enough time to my friends and family because they're important to me. But it's like, I'm not going to say yes to every time they want to hang out. I'm not going to say yes every time they want to get something done. I'll be like, hey, I miss you too. Let's schedule something. And I know some people really hate that. But it's like, that's how I operate. That's how I make sure I put me first. Yep.
They'll get over it. Yeah, they'll get over it. They will, I promise.
Yep.
And if they can't ever get over it, eventually you just cut the cord. Just cut them off. Right? Because every time you say yes to something that's misaligned with you, it becomes a problem, and you'll start to find a deficit there. These little micro recoveries, trying to kind of do these little naps. Nap is a great one. If I could nap,
I need to learn to nap. I need to learn to nap.
My life.
Once I go to sleep, I'm out. I'm good, but I don't know how to nap. Allison's been trying to teach me, but. One thing I've gone in the habit is I realize my stress levels at work are really high.
Even if it's for an hour.
We don't take breaks unless we want to because we can leave early. But it's like I'll clock out. I'll do a quick lap around the complex. If I'm feeling even more, I live close to a lake, and I will take 30, 45 minutes, my whole breaks, and just go to the lake and just walk it. Do 2 laps, soak in nature, let myself decompress, let my mind just sort of do its thing, and then I go back to work and I'm revitalized, rejuvenated. Also, every Friday, that's my big day off to get stuff done for me. And so I'll straight up put my laptop in my backpack and ride my bike down to the river, hotspot to my laptop, and sit next to the river while I blog or do whatever. And it's just little things I can incorporate that add rest and relaxation to my life routine that I already have.
Another thing is bring back joy. We talk about this every so often, but this always hits about once every other 2 episodes. But this creative play. Rediscover these things that brought you joy, and have no reason or rhyme, and other than to feel happy. If that's painting or dancing or cooking or singing or building a birdhouse or whatever, man, whatever it is that lights you up, just for the sake of lighting you up. And this kind of play is like fuel for the spirit.
Like one thing for me and Allison, because we both have a lot going on in our lives, we have date night every week. And date night, we always try to do something that is us doing something together. It could be as easy as just staying home and playing a game. It could be us turning off technology for the night and painting. Yeah. Or we'll go find an event that sounds really cool. We'll just look one up and go to it.
Right.
Oh, yeah, those 3D models, the bookends.
Right. You guys build those little things, too. What are those little things that you guys
And that's
build?
Great couple building. You learn how to communicate and deal with stress, but at the same time, it's like no technology and you're building something beautiful.
It is. Right, and it's better than Uno because you don't feel the need to smack somebody when they draw for you like 6 times in a row. Of course, this goes back to that axiom: the edge is lost if the blade is sharpened too much. Moderation is the key to balance. We get on autopilot with this stuff, with the world, and it takes us for a ride if we're not careful. It's taken me for a ride, and that just goes back to something that I've always said. Yeah, I teach this. I develop most of this, but I fall victim to it too. And that's important to understand that literally any of us can fall victim to these things if we're not careful.
One other big one is sleep routines. So how it is so proven that if you don't go to bed at the same time every night, you're going to struggle getting to sleep or waking up. And I'm guilty of this. Thursday nights, that's my night to do homework. Allison's got work on Friday, so I'll stay up till like midnight, 1 o'clock, doing me, because that's like my me time. And it's like, I need to find a new time to put that, because I realize it's throwing my sleep schedule off for the rest of the week, staying up so late. To be consistent with your sleep schedule is so good for your body, your natural clock, your REM cycles, all of it. And then on top of that, getting into nightly rituals, brushing your teeth, taking a shower if that's your thing at night. But if you can get into these routines and build these good habits, one of my favorite ones is every night, about an hour before we go to bed, we turn off our technology, we plug in the phones away from the bed, and we make tea, and we'll either read books or just talk about our day and our struggles. And like that's just our way of trying to decompress and have just sort of a routine we do before bed every night.
Yeah. Heather and I have 2 games that we play on our tablets together. Like, we literally don't play them without each other. We got these I don't have them with me, but we got these cute little teacups that are like my friend Miko, he got us these little teacups, and we use them a lot. Just almost symbolically use them, right? I have cups that I would prefer to drink tea out of because they're a little bigger and I can, get more tea. But we were in this routine where it was time to unwind, and we would make our tea, and then we would play our tablet games together. We wouldn't really speak to each other a whole lot.
What games do you guys play together?
Just being present, just hanging out with each other, and that was kind of our nighttime.
Okay.
Monopoly Go, and I don't know what the other one's called. Dice.
Recommend it. But to the point, it's a good couple exercise to just spend time, do something together.
Yeah, it is. That's our thing, because Heather and I spend a lot of time together. We're always together, and we wouldn't have it any other way because we enjoy each other's company. At least I do. Maybe she'd have a different. Maybe she would say sometimes she's happy that I sit in the office and work on my teachings and stuff. But all kidding aside, that's what we used to do. But her schedule has gotten changed where she doesn't get home till like 10:30, 11 now. So that's been taken from us just based on her schedule. So, and I have to get up at 4:30 in the morning, and 11 o'clock at night is rough because then I'm only getting like 6 hours of sleep, 5.5, 6 hours of sleep if I wait up for her. So yeah, I was just illustrating the point how important those things are, to have those kind of set things that you do, because that's how we prevent this stuff from happening in the future. A lot of the strategies we've talked about in the last few minutes, once you get back to something resembling balance, right, then you can kind of use these same strategies to be preventive, like preventive maintenance, doing your oil changes because your car needs it and it can't run around on dirty oil for too long. So scheduling stuff if you have to, yeah, and you do a great job. I like that. This goes back to our shared favorite axiom: the student is the best teacher. You give me a lot of praise, and I appreciate it. But I want you to know that I'm learning by watching you and watching you do things that I never done, like scheduling stuff. I've always been kind of like seat of my pants type thing. Live in the moment, man. Live in the moment. But sometimes it's okay to start learning how to schedule things.
Right. Well, and Alice and I were talking about last night, because she's very much like, I need structure, thing. I need a set agenda. And I am very sporadic. I plan like events and weekends, but it's like you need a balance of both spontaneity and organization. Because that's where you find the most fulfillment. It's a lack of control to which you set in stone. Because that's the hardest thing, is when you do start becoming meticulous with your schedule. If you're not flexible, if you're not willing to just go with the flow, if something falls out of line or doesn't work out, don't let it upset you. Oh, now I got downtime. All right, let me do something else with my time. It leads to a great life.
Right. Yeah. So, well, yeah, I mean, it's a good balance. It helps create that harmony, because it's way too easy to get caught up in the chaos. We just talked about that in another show. Why do we choose chaos over peace every time? It's a lot of it's conditioning, but we won't get into that because we've talked about that, to death. But we'll still talk about it every so often because it's important. But yeah, so this is a very important topic and a very important show, and I just want to just kind of throw this out here that prevention isn't about perfection, right? It's just, again, it's about becoming aware. It's almost like kind of shouting out the 4 Agreements show. You're making a new agreement. You're committing to protecting your being so that you can live your purpose and have the biggest impact on your life and then others. So,
now, one last thing I just got to add into this is,
it's really important.
You know how you work. You know your bandwidth.
I'm learning.
And often you push well beyond it. Make an energy budget. Just be like, look, I need this much time for me, this much time for outsourcing my energy. Like, give yourself a budget of how much you can really commit to in a day. And start small. Now, I get it. parents, you're in school, you're working full time. Like there's all these things that really accumulate quick that don't leave a lot of wiggle room. But through communication, if you're a parent and you're taking your kids to all these sports games, get with one of the other parents or a couple of the parents. Hey, would you be up for, I'll take your kid to the sports practice this week if you do, or on Tuesday if you do it on Thursday for me. Find people to co-create with you the life you need. That's why community is so important. If we can start outsourcing things, and it doesn't mean outsourcing parenting by any means, do not misread that, but finding ways to delegate and work with other people to help give yourself more energy, more time, and more functionality, you just got to get creative with what's going on in your life. You're working full-time, you're working overtime, you can find work that pays the same money and can be more a fit to your lifestyle. There's all these things to look at. Just stop being complacent. And I'm not saying it's that easy. Like, I want to stress, I am not saying this is an easy thing to do. But we have control over our lives, and it's up to us to make the changes we need to survive and thrive.
Yeah. Yes.
Well said.
And money can only buy pills. It can't buy health. I mean, it can help you buy rest, and it can help you buy the things that you build into a burnout-free life. But if money is helping with that burnout, all you can buy with it is pills at that point, and prolong your life. But you're not going to be living happy for most of it. I'm not very happy right now with the state of my body.
Yep, exactly. Again, most millionaires are depressed.
It wouldn't matter. I'd still feel like this. So, at the end of the day, this is what I'll say in closing for this.
Yeah.
First, I'll say, please make sure you go to our website, right? newashla.com. But the burnout is not a sign of weakness. I don't feel like I'm weak because I'm burnt out, because I'm stressed out and doing this. It's a message. It's a signal, right? And that I've been living out of alignment for probably 3 months too long in this aspect of my life, because the world will never stop demanding. It will never, ever, ever stop demanding things from you and more from you. But you're the only one that can be a guardian of yourself. You're the only one that can protect yourself. No one else can do that for you, right? They can help you, they can coach you, they can support you, they can listen to you, but at the end of the day, you have to put in the work to guard your light, to guard your health, to guard your boundaries, all these things. And hopefully you're walking away with some tools today, at least to notice these things earlier than I did. So it's just a daily practice to prevent this energy depletion, and really by honoring that moderation to try and find that harmony, right? So your energy is not limitless because you are a vessel, but you can tap into unlimited energy.
Say that's true. It's like we were saying with energies and relationships, right? If you're around toxic environments and toxic people, you are burnt out. If you're around people you love, who you can be yourself around, you leave with more energy.
Yeah.
I do have a prayer today for us. An affirmative prayer, your favorite kind. So we're going to go ahead and close our eyes. Take a deep breath in. Let it go. In this moment, I remember that I am connected to a source of peace, love, and vitality that flows through all creation. I affirm my worth is not measured by what I do, but by the light and life I carry within me. I release all burdens that are not mine to hold, and I step into a rhythm that honors my body, my mind, and my spirit. Every breath I take is a sacred invitation to rest, to restore, and to rise renewed. I give thanks for the wisdom of my body, the clarity of my mind, and the resilience of my spirit. And so it is.
So it is. Ad Lucian.
Ad Lucian.
Oh.
That was a good one.
I like that one. That was good.
So, for our affirmations today, rest is not a weakness. It is my most powerful act of renewal. I honor my body's signals and give myself permission to pause. I release the need to prove my worth through overwork. My energy is sacred, and I choose to spend it with intention. Every breath I take brings me closer to balance and peace. For our exercise today, it's another one of our body scans. It's a burnout check-in. As usual, take a minute to sit comfortably and just get into a meditative state. Breathe in, breathe out. Allow yourself to get grounded. Now, start to scan your body, your head and eyes. Are you feeling heavy, tense, or foggy? Move down to the jaw and the neck. Is there tightness or clenching? Then go down to your shoulders, your chest. Do they feel light and open, or heavy and constricted? Then to your arms and hands. Is there restlessness or calm stillness? Now to the stomach and gut. Are there any knots, queasiness, some reflex? Or is it relaxed and at ease? Now, move down to your legs and feet. Do they feel grounded or drained, exhausted to move forward? Now, do an emotional check-in. Ask yourself, what emotions is most present in me right now? Is it calm and peace, or is it anxiety? If your body could speak one sentence about what it needs, what would it say to you? I need rest. I need community. I need to be heard. Now, give yourself that gauge of the burnout. How close are you to burnout? Are you on 1 where you're full of energy and doing great? Are you a 5 where you're starting to feel tired more often? It's starting to become consistent and starting to move into true burnout? Or is it 10 where you're exhausted, beat, have no joy in life, and you just don't want to do anything?
I give it a 10 for me. It's a 10 right now for me.
I respect that. I'm sitting about a 4.
Maybe
It's like
an 11. Break the scale.
I can see it with all you're doing right now.
Yeah.
And for a journaling prompt. If my body, mind, and spirit each had a seat at the table today, what would they tell me about how I'm living? And what would they ask me to change to live more alignment with myself?
I would probably get a lecture, for sure.
All the way around the table.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it'd be more
You're
like an
voted
intervention.
off the island.
Yeah, this would be more like an intervention at this point. So, they'd be like, Justin, sit down, please.
Burnout is a serious issue in our world today. So many people struggle with it and have no idea. Take time to reflect. Look at your life for what it really is and where you're really at in it. You don't have to be a hero. You don't have to be perfect. You do got to be real and honest with yourself before this becomes a problem if it is something in your life. Also, with anyone else in your life, you see them struggling with this, share this episode because this is something that needs to gain more traction and awareness because the hustle culture of today is ripe ground for everyone leading to burnout. So, thank you so much for joining us today and for your time. With love and gratitude, Ad Lucian.
Ad Lucian.